and my dear respected Vice Chancellors, very senior academicians, very senior academic thought leaders who will be present with us today on day 2 of the Lloyd's International Conference where we are discussing the NEP 2020. Very warm welcome, sir. And we are really proud and privileged that you could be with us today. So we have a gathering of senior academicians from across the nation, faculty members and also students. So the thought processes that we look forward today to and the discussions that we look forward today are not only going to be restricted to what the policy should be, but rather the challenges that the policy is going to face and the solutions that possibly we can find out and present it to the government for their reviews and possibly submit them for some acceptance as well. So I hope that, thank you. So I hope that whatever discussions we do here would we be able to submit to the government, thanks to Professor Goyal, who is going to help us do that. And I hope then the discussions are going to be fruitful. I would like to start with the discussions that we had yesterday, sir. We had a very engaging inaugural session. And where we left yesterday was to the times of holistic education that India had couple of decades back, during the times of Takshashila and during the times of Nalanda, which we somehow left in between and which somehow our Indian education system seemed to have forgotten. The current NEP, as we have seen, sir, focuses a lot on bringing the Indian education back to the system and at the same time place India on a global network, as it will be called a global knowledge superpower. So I would like to understand from you, sir, we can start with Professor Kripa Shanker. Sir, what are your views on bringing the Indian education system back to India after so many decades, and how does that relate to placing India on a global network as well?
Thank you, ma'am. It's on already. Okay, well, I think my name is Kripa Shanker. Am I audible to the last person in the room? Okay. Well, I think what you would have noticed is that there was only one person who was not preceded by saying honorable. All other that you see, they are honorable. So that's me, the first one, without being honorable. My relationship with the educational policy is, very simply speaking, the chairman of the committee was the chief guest of the convocation where I was the vice chancellor. As a matter of fact, one before him, who was the ISRO chief, U.R. Rao, one who was after him, Madhavan Nair, were also the chief guests of the convocation at UPTU, Lucknow. Now it is known as AKTU. That's about me. Bringing the education system, the old age education system in India, and looking at from the modern point of view, is a huge effort. The reason is that most of us do not know the education system elsewhere. So, whatever has happened in India sometimes is great, or nothing else can be in the world anywhere else. But you know very well that there have been the civilization of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, and let's not forget, there have been the civilization at Mesopotamia, at Babylon, at other places in the world. That's one thing. That means the education system across the world had been there from time immemorial. And I will try to bring all of them, or at least middle path of that, and back to the education system today. In the introduction, it was told that I have spent a lot of time in IIT Kanpur. As a matter of fact, I am born and brought up at IIT Kanpur. That's what I feel. The question is what you feel. If you feel that you are great being a student of Lyad University and not of IIT Kanpur, well, that's what I'm talking about right now. The feeling is never taught by us. We are not competent to fix up your feeling. But you know very well that the feeling is the reason of associating one with its alma mater or whatever you may like to call, with a system and so on and so forth. I will give you some examples. If you are not sitting in the audience, Mahesh Gupta, are you there anywhere? No, he's not there. Fortunately, very good. He runs and makes Kent RO that you might have seen on the television. And person like him pulling in Hema Malini to advertise is the issue that one needs to study, not the Kent RO machine. Second example, a lot of things have been said about, this company, that company, and so on and so forth. I'll talk about the WebEx. WebEx was developed by an Indian. His name was Shubhra Iyer, and it was sold to Cisco for $3.9 billion 3 years ago, and the name has become Cisco WebEx. But remember, it was Shubhra Iyer of IIT Bombay who developed that kind of thing. Name anything else like that. There was a person who was very simple, would never complain for anything, runs Indigo, perhaps the largest airlines in the world today. And I'm not talking about Shanti Bhushan or Prashant Bhushan, but from the same family there was Abhay Bhushan. Abhay Bhushan was 60001. The reason, if you see the Abhay Bhushan, you cannot make a name prior to that. So he was roll number 1 of IIT Kanpur at some point in time, and he developed CPIP. You understand that? At MIT, he had absolutely no background. With these few examples that I know personally, let us see the meaning of the education. The education we know is from Vishwamitra, from Vasisht, and from Dronacharya, and many other. तो उसकी आँख फोड़ने के लिए वो सिखाएंगे, जिंदगी भर केवल एक ही काम करेंगे, आँख फोड़ो। हमें पता नहीं है कि बाईं आँख के लिए कह रहे थे या दाहिनी आँख के लिए, लेकिन आँख के अलावा अगर उनको और कुछ फोड़ना होगा तो उनको आएगा भी नहीं शायद। This is what the education has been in the past, and today we want everybody, and everybody means most of these people have either felt tired or have failed or whatever to qualify for so-called joint entrance examination. If I am wrong, please tell me. There is nothing wrong in failing any examination. What is wrong is that most of you do not listen to the person who is speaking and are busy with your mobile phone. See, this is the crux of the education. Ramchandra ji or Bhim or Yudhishthir or all these ek aankh ko phodo wali baat jo humne pehle kaha tha, there was no mobile, so they were not busy with something else. If you are busy, you do not have a mind so versatile that you can, do several things simultaneously. You are not a great multiprocessor. Remember, if you are not, then concentrate. If you do not concentrate, don't cheat the parents at home. This is all that I wanted to say. The moment the concentration is achieved, there is nothing wrong in. As a matter of fact, you will notice through the history that failing an examination is to be converted as a boon, because the mentality of a wounded soldier is stronger than the mentality of a winning soldier. That's what people say. So I say that if you have failed any examination any time, it's good. And but after that, you cannot afford to have the mobile phone and then doing like, reading some girlfriend or boyfriend kind of message and then listening to the teacher who is trying to teach you. You cannot do that. Remember, you have failed once. You cannot develop TCP/IP just because having a different background, because you are not that material. Remember, I am not that material. I cannot develop that kind of data transfer system. And I hope that you know the world standard today, or was TCP/IP for some time. And that was 60001. Abhay Kumar. So the idea is that the history has, the education is talked about mostly in the context of an isolation. So a lot of good things about, no, this fellow has given a very good policy and stuff like this. The connect to the society is very important. And remember, after the Nagasaki bomb blast, Japanese were very bad. They didn't know Hindi. Somebody spoke about our own language is very important. Maybe, perhaps, but it was not Hindi for sure. It was a Japanese language. They worked on it and they debated onto it. And today, remember, I was a student at that time when there used to be one camera, a Yashica camera. And one has to do like this, the way I'm doing. That means the camera would look at the object optically like this. And today, that camera is in the telephone. Wherever is the telephone, the camera is in the telephone. You don't have to do like this. Who is responsible for this? It's the poverty of the people. It's one aspect of the society which is responsible for bringing the camera to the telephone, mobile phone, what you call. And that's I think all of you know that that's a misnomer. Mobile phone doesn't mean that the phone is mobile. It's the user who is mobile, but the name has been given. So the name, if you give someone as Kripa Shanker, neither he has any power to do any Kripa, nor he is a Shankar, but so is the mobile phone.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sir.
Okay, the time is over.
We'll come back to you for more.
Okay, all right. I knew that the time is over.
We'll come back to you for more, but warming up the session to comparing Arjun's piercing the eye of the fish to the students of these days piercing their eyes in the phone, we move on to Professor Goyal and understand the same thoughts. Does he believe that this bringing back history of Indian civilization or Indian education, are we really open and are we ready to internationalization of education to bring the same glory of India being a Vishwa Guru again? Do you think that we can make it happen again, sir? So you may please sit and
No, that's fine. Honorable Dr. Kripa Shanker ji, Honorable my colleague Vice Chancellors, all respected people sitting, and dear students. Now, being the organizer, part of the organization also, let me take few minutes before I come to the... let me start with your question. I very much feel that yes, it is possible to have the internationalization. And this focus of this theme, after announcement of the NEP 2020, all across the country, various programs are going on. But, and what is talked is, number one is value education, how to add the values. Value means एक हायर सेकेंडरी स्टूडेंट को ये यानी एक ग्रेजुएशन करता है तो उसको ये सिखाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है कि कैसे आपको माँ बाप या गुरु की या किसी की रिस्पेक्ट करनी है. दैट इज़ नॉट द वैल्यू. आयुर्वेद है हमारा, वो भी है. इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि हमको मॉडर्न को हटा के आयुर्वेद में आ जाना है. सी वैल्यू हैव ए लिटिल डिफरेंट. वैल्यू मीन्स वैल्यू ऑफ व्हाट यू आर स्टडिंग. If you are studying medical sciences, what are the value added courses of medical sciences? That has to be talked about. What are the value added courses related to that? So that is the allied health sciences value added courses. Please understand this. We are unnecessarily dragging to other side. So that is one part. But what yesterday I could gather, although I had to go last in the evening, and today morning I was a little late, so I missed the first session. But I have tried to say to what has been talked, what has been discussed. Number one, I mean, as rightly pointed out, we will be sending recommendations also. Because this is very important meeting that way. And the focus was very clear. Transformation through NEP 2020. In the global scenario, we have to come. I mean, all institutions, we have to strictly implement the recommendations of the NEP 2020. How? That's what, so yesterday what it emerged, you can correct me, multidisciplinary approach, and that is a point of discussion in this round table also. To talk it is easy, but how to bring it? So yesterday one point I brought, that another mandate is credit bank in each university. Now this credit bank, like in our DIPSRU, we have passed through our Board of Governor and Academic Council that there will be additional up to 8 credits given in the mark sheets. So that students have to understand. Those credit can be earned within the campus or outside the campus. That is what is there. Outside means that it should be recognized by the governing body. That is what. Now, credit means suppose somebody says that I will go to medical college, I will have the course of 30 hours, so I will get 2 credit, get that certificate, and it will be added to the mark sheet of that student. That is the real credit. This is one part of the addition of the credit. Then credit banks, that means first year student complete certain courses, they get courses, some are compulsory like 30 credits or so which are earmarked, but he earns more, 5 credits more. So he may be given wattage, so that credit banks are there for you. So bank is there to get that money. It's like a money which you are getting. So credit bank and how to implement, that is the point of discussion, and this can be discussed only and only if allied discipline by vice chancellors or particularly they are coming together. Then comes the uses of AI which was discussed, uses of technology. Yes, mobile misuse also. If you remember yesterday lecture, I told that there is a severe threat also because of mobile. But yes, it has given something better. So how to use that AI for assessment system? That is another thing which our vice chancellors, we may have to think, that how to make the assessment system robust through AI. This is one thing, especially for the bigger universities like IP University or so, which have lakhs of students. How to do that? Gujarat Technology University has done it. That's what I'm saying. Then integration, and obviously then teacher training and pedagogy, how to change. Now online, certain things are good, but certain things are bad also. How can we analyze as the Vice Chancellor? This is another point which we give. So it will be going as the recommendation that how it can be done. And then comes the very important part, since yesterday it has been discussed, is industry academic, because there were luminaries, and Lloyd is known for, at least in pharmacy I can claim, in North India, the best job is done by Lloyd Institute only, by Job Fest. Even our university has not done this, but you have done it, and you have been consistently doing it. I must compliment that. We are not, but yes, we are connected to industry through MOUs and all that. So that is one thing. So how to take this thing further? And then The big question comes to regulations like PCI, MCI, DCI and all that, and including AICT versus the autonomy of the university. This is something it is still not understood. So this is to be discussed. So this is what is there. So if any point emerges from this, I will be really happy. So with these things, I hope I've answered your question, but I've taken more time because of this.
No, absolutely.
Because I had to summarize what has been there, and we want to really see that this conference gives the clear recommendations to the government. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'd like to understand from Afshar sir. Sir, thanks for being with us. Sir, continuing from what sir said about academic bank of credits, do you think that it would really be doable to collect credits from various colleges and universities and then create a certificate, a diploma or a degree out of it? Do you think that quality-wise it will be comparable? For example, if a student comes from a college which is not doing too well and collects some credit points in first year and then changes the college to another better college or maybe a more degraded college, how do you compare the quality of these two colleges considering that the credits earned are equivalent? So how will we calculate the academic bank of credits and how will we create certificates, diplomas and degrees out of it together?
Thank you. Thank you very much. First I will give you answer, then I will talk about a little bit of national education policy, what the government is planning and all. The question is very good, but already India is doing for credit transfer. If you see Medical Council of India and MBBS, if you complete your first prof in any medical college and seat is vacant, then you can easily transfer to second prof to any medical college. This has already happened for many years. So India is already doing this credit transfer, and UGC has already started earlier to 20% of your credit transfer through MOOCs courses and SWAYAM courses, and they have, due to COVID, they have increased to 40%. So now they are talking about credit bank. The academic credit bank is very important. If somebody is very good and, for example, he wanted to change, because in Europe, in US and Europe, if you do some courses and you will submit your mark sheet that I have completed this number of courses, so they will accept your credit. So that process India is coming up, and I feel it will be because Parliament is already make an act of credit transfer, and very soon the new education policy, I think in January they are coming up, so they will implement it for the credit transfer courses. But what are the process and all that? Because in new education policy, I just talk about a little brief that in 1985, when Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi was there, then the new education policy came up 1985. After 34 years, the NEP 2020 came up. So in the NEP 20, there is a 3-language formula has already implemented. School education 3 plus 5 plus 3 standard is there. And earlier, when very senior sir was student, he must done PUC courses and all. So PUC implemented, MPhil has now, there is no need for any MPhil program. So more vocationalization have to improve, and most because sir is already talking about a mobile and all. So the online program is for internationalization. Online program is very important. So every university now, UGC has already started giving online degree program. For many, even in my university, we have started for 5 programs on online mode. So even students sitting in Middle East or anywhere in the world, they can take admission through a learning management system and take a degree from Jamia Hamdard. So this is already there in the new education policy. So new education policy, the digital transformation is a very important aspect. It is a wonderful policy made by government after 34 years. And already Professor has already talked about holistic education. We talk a lot about Nalanda, Taxila and all. But the fact is this, any good student from IIT will go to abroad. They will not serve to their country. This is the, we must think how we can stay, our talent should not go to outside the country. That is the most important aspect we have to thought in that.
So with NEP coming, and what it says is that internationalization, foreign universities setting up their campuses here, this kind of brain drain can stop?
Actually, yeah, madam, recently government has started one program for young leaders. So I was selected before becoming Vice Chancellor, so I went to Monash University. So Government of India has paid all the facility to 30 professors from India, from IIT, from NIT, and many those who completed 10 years of professorship as a future leader. So what I have seen to study the Monash University in Australia, and Monash have already started campus in Ahmedabad. So the business development mode. So the very important aspect of the new education policy is that now any government or a private sector, all the regulations should be same for everybody, whether it is a Lloyd or DIPSAR or IIT. For regulation is same. So that is one of the important aspects the government has started, that nobody will get extra priority, whether it is a public sector or a private sector. So this is very important aspect of new education policy. Means government, see every policy you will see that they are talking first language from Radhakrishnan report up to till report, they are talking that we will increase 6% of GDP in higher education. But fact is that they are not giving 1.2% of GDP for higher education. So this is the myth for every government. We are not criticizing to any government, but this is the fact. They are not. Even the new education policy 2020, they said we will start with 6% of GDP. So everyone and they have developed a national research foundation, the medical law, everything have a single regulatory. These are the very wonderful recommendation. But last 10 years I have seen in many parliament proceedings and newspaper that UGC is going to become the Higher Education Commission. But so I don't think for last 10 years UGC has not closed down and the higher education will not come. See, always policy have given lot of recommendation, but India is a very complex country. Lot of public-private partnership is there. And we came for higher education through a British mode. We must understand that. So our Indian system is totally based on the, initially 2025 university came up, they are the wonderful university, but they are under the British Act. But India came and nowadays we have 945 universities in India. Sam Pradada predicted that we need 4,000 universities and finally a lot of AICT colleges are closed down. See, recommendation is not. Practical implementation is more important. We are talking too much in many, even if you go to Kothari Commission, if you go to Radhakrishna report, till that, like 16 and 70, the bureaucrat has, mostly central universities, the bureaucrat became the vice chancellor. But thank God, at least in the 7th Pay Commission, the 10-year professor can become the vice chancellor. One thing is implemented, I must say. So these things are there. We need lot of, discussion in that policy, and let us watch, because January, I think, the government will come up with the National Research Foundation and they are going to give, but government already has given for engineering, the Science and Research Board has 900 crore budget, Act of Parliament is already working, DST is there, but they are coming up one National Research Foundation. So let us watch, but I think it is a good policy because they are talking about more vocalization in school education. That is, I like that idea because mostly in Western schools, the vocalization is very important aspect in school education. So पहले हम लोग रट के पढ़ लेते थे, वो ज़माना अब चला जाएगा. तो ये एक अच्छा शुरुआत है. तो इसी के साथ
सर उस जमाने की इंतजार तो कई सालों से हो रही है हिंदुस्तान में कि कब
हम सिर्फ ये बोलेंगे
रोड लर्निंग खत्म हो और कंसेप्चुअल लर्निंग एजुकेशन सिस्टम में आए. सो आई होप इट विल बी अ वंडरफुल मूव.
But now they are doing now 20% UGC is already started for online. Then after that they will say that okay, you do this credit from the, see, if you go to Waterloo University in Canada, so if you go, these courses I have completed. So for 16 credit, if you complete in a 6 month or 1 year, you will get a degree. So that thing definitely India have to approach. But the higher education policy, what I see in Monash and other universities, mostly depend on foreign students. Even because of COVID, The whole economy of Australia is closed down because 45% of Chinese students went to Australia. So these are the real fact, but still we hope, because still, you know, the Middle East and other countries, they love our country because of culturally India, because of culture, or the way Bollywood also play a lot of track to diplomacy and all. So people love India. If one student wanted to come to India, so for 4-year course, he wanted to stay more year to complete the course and go back. So this is the real fact, even I have seen in my university also. So in this fact, even I can only recommend that this education policy is after the waiting of 34 years it came, but it's really a very good policy. इसमें एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत की बात की गई है, तो देखते हैं आगे क्या होता है.
Totally understand, sir, that Ek Bharat, Shresht Bharat, and taking a cue from there about uniformity of education and giving education to everybody. Like it also talks about accessibility and equity, that everybody must get this, you know, equal right of education. So I'll take this to Abhay sir. Abhay sir, with an illustrious career in education, academics, and in such senior positions, you would have seen many students who are not able to afford higher education. And NEP is somewhere a little silent still on affordability of education, though it talks about uniformity. What about the higher fee structures? What about those students who cannot afford higher education? So does NEP want to make any, do you want to make any recommendation to the government to make higher education affordable, to make IIMs and IITs affordable to students? Because even we have heard, you know, there was a very recent debate I heard of, you know, primary class students, and they debated on whether money is required for education or not. And 75% of them debated pro it, that yes, if you don't have money, like in the younger students were saying, you know, little kids of 9-10 years, that my mates' kids are not able to go to school because they don't have the money for education. So how much ever talk we do, but somewhere our education system fails to educate the ones who cannot afford. What are your thoughts on those?
Thank you, Dr. Vandana. I think, am I audible to all of you? Yes, well, I'm really very thankful to the Lloyd Group of institutions for having invited us today. Distinguished Vice Chancellors on the dais, we have distinguished academicians as well as dear students, because of course you would be the best learners today. When we talk about the national education policy, when we talk about accessibility or affordability, let us understand the soul of the NEP 2020. In letter and spirit, what exactly does it portray? Then I'll come to your answer, because that would be better when we go across a schematic situation of things. Now, when we talk about NEP 2020, and as the Honorable Vice Chancellor just said, after 34 long years, this transformational process which has occurred, the objective of this national education policy is not to thrust anything upon anybody. Point number one. That means it gives us a certain guideline on which we as institutional leaders should proceed on our own. Who will implement this national education policy? It is us. And in fact, I'll tell you very proudly that without having any indication from anywhere, being a private university, we have started the implementation at Pratap University, Jaipur. Already done it. Multidisciplinary course structures we are creating. What is happening is, when people talk about evaluation processes to be changed, assessment procedures to be modified, I think primarily what would be practically more important is to have pedagogical changes first. The lesson plans and course plans have to be modified accordingly. Because when teaching online, we come to a hybrid mode, which is a combination, of course, of online and offline. But then I presumably talk more about a high flex mode. That is, it should be flexible mode. It should not only be a combination of two. We can jump from one to the other as and when we feel. So that is more appropriately a high flex mode in my opinion. Now, before I come to your answer, I just appropriately try to answer what you had talked about, the academic bank of credit. That the good and the not so good institutions, how would the student mobility of credits would be there. When we go through the national education policy script of 600 plus pages, I presume, we find that the apex body which the government will create to store these credits in a bank, a depository, where it will be stored then redeemed. Only NAC A accredited institutions or NIRF 100 would be able to participate in that bank of credit. So now your question stands self-answered, that those institutions which are not NAC A accredited or those which are not in the top 100 in the NIRF rankings, they will not be a part of the academic credit position. But then I'll tell you one more thing. There's a word of caution from my side. Those who are having an A grade and they slip and come to B in the next cycle, they will also be out of the bank. So the institutions would be forced to maintain that quality, and those who are not maintaining that quality at present would presumably be able to come up and maintain that. So that is one very vital point of action which the national education policy has given us. Now, apart from the flexible curricula, multiple exit and entry options, we all know about that. We have all read that in various, about 200 more webinars or conferences I personally have done globally in the past 2 years. So across the nations. So what I have gathered from all these conferences is that when you're talking about the student body, for instance, with such high fee, what can we do? Yesterday in one of the summits, I was hearing one of the Honorable Vice Chancellors speaking that many students, because of that fee structure, would go to government universities and get an MBA done in 25,000. Well, I am not actually happening to support him on this, because the government universities are having a limited seats.
Can I add?
Yeah, yes.
Because this is a very good question. If you see IM, so now Government of India started that one-time capital funding has given to them. They are not giving any money to them. Now they are running their institution through fee. So IM itself, they are charging 30 lakhs rupees. But any student, if they get admission in IM, so they will easily support a bank is there. So now, you know, mostly the institution have to go for outreach program. You have to generate fund through society, because many things, you know, the job of the Vice Chancellor is to get grant from different institutions, as UK and other American universities are doing. So the classes, the courses, the instructions, this is done by the deans. So the VC job, as per the British system or American system, if you go, all the best institution in India, in US are the private institution, not a government institution. So IM is already, the government has stopped funding to IM. IM is generating fund through students. Same IITs will coming, even many institutions now we are also getting government fund. So they are going to stop government fund, and that's why, you know, in the new education policy, they have mentioned that whether you are a public sector or a private sector, all the regulation will be same. It means that government wanted to promote privatization in the education, even in the public sector institutions.
Thank you. Actually, I was exactly coming to a similar point, saying that even if the fee structure in a private institution may be higher at present, we have banks, we have various institutions, we have various finance companies now who are in fact financing the fee structure of the students. Even at my university, Pratap University, we have one organization which are financing the entire course of the student. Of course, it is our duty to give them good placements, good job opportunities and employability. Make them employable. That is the crux of the situation. So what is needed for that, apart from a conceptual knowledge base, we have to equip them with the basic skills. Now these skills are not necessarily going to be only knowledge. They have to be soft skills, they have to be skills of, as we have been talking in the last panel, compassion, empathy, 21st century skills, there are a lot of them. We have to equip them properly with that. Of course, then the fee structure is not a problem, and I'll tell you very frankly, apart from some of the government institutions doing very well, I think many private institutions, and I'm proud to say that I'm sitting at one such institution today. Lloyds has created a name for itself in the education system. The ecosystem which has been created is based on those universities which are running, or those institutions which are private, because how many government institutions are there in number? Somebody said 54. So out of the 1,000 universities and 40,000 colleges and institutes across the country, 14 lakh faculty members, about 70% are employed in the private institutions. So we have to understand that it is a yeoman's service that we have to do today sitting here. Now, talking about internationalization and globalization, that was another aspect in which you had dwelt probably. I would say it is a good fact that foreign and international universities are being invited to India. Okay, let them come. It will make us grow. The competition is making us grow. And mark my word for it, those universities which come to India, believe me, they will not be offering the same course structure they are doing so in their own countries. They will have to modify it, blend it across to the Indian conditions. As I was speaking in some other forums, just be reminded of McDonald's and Domino's, who are producing aloo tikkis and samosas after coming to India. So the cultural exchange, the cultural blend which has to be created. Now, how many of our students are going outside the country to study? That percentage is not very large. And that is of a particular section of the society mostly. Because apart from some of the scholarships being given to the poor students or not those who have not got that finance capability, most of the students are of the affluent sections of society. Now, when they go outside, similarly from other countries, they proceed to a foreign university. And that makes them popular. You know, yesterday I was talking to Professor Rao, Director IIT Delhi. He was telling us that IIT Delhi engineering course only is ranked in the top 50 in the world, but if you have the entire IIT in structure, it is ranked not even in 200, probably in 200 now. So what makes those rankings for those universities outside the country is the diversity of the course they have. Therefore, that is the very reason why the national education policy now talks about interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and I'll talk about transdisciplinary now, where human and machines are included, AI is included. So when we talk about such aspects, we know that teaching intensive universities, research intensive universities, autonomous colleges, and as rightly talked by the Honorable Vice Chancellor here, that the government is going to give the similar level playing field to the government as well as the private colleges and universities. If that happens, with an inverted commas, of course, sir. Yeah, it is in the policy, the implementation part, because you know any policy is as good as implemented. So that part we have to look into. I think I'll close only with one statement right now, that the implementation of this policy is not going to be the onus only on government. It has to be a collaborated effort by the institutional leaders, the teachers, the environment, the society, the industry, and every individual who has any stake in the education ecosystem of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And more so for affiliated colleges, because we are sitting in one right now, and it is on the onus of the affiliated colleges to maintain that quality, to be upgraded to an autonomy status, and move away from the affiliation of the university that we still stand, which we'll come to later. Coming to Professor Tabrez, something that I really wanted to ask you is that belonging to a university which caters to students from all categories, coming from the rural, urban, suburban, not so good backgrounds to very good backgrounds, do you think that this kind of a holistic and, like Professor Goyal initiated, multidisciplinary education, you think that will be welcomed by these students? Some student who wants to do a BTech or probably a course in science, in India, do students still have the mindset that they want to do an arts course along with science? Would that be a welcome change? Because as much as I remember, a couple of years ago when this 4-year graduation was introduced in Delhi University, and Professor Dinesh, who was the Vice Chancellor at that time, had to face a backlash, and that course was withdrawn because our students did not want to do a 4-year graduation. Absolutely, with the ICT as well. So it had to be taken back. Are we ready for a science course with humanities or vice versa? Do our students want to do a BTech with probably sociology or psychology or economics?
So thank you, Vandana, for a very nice question. So let me thank the Lloyds Group for inviting me in this program. It's great to be part of this VC round discussion and discussing very important point about the NEP. Let me first come to the NEP, keeping in mind the private group. We are one of the very pioneer in the country because we have 100 schools. To talk about the whether CBSC, IGCSE, IG. Also we have the IB board. We have the law petite, toddler house. We have all kind of school in the country. So we university in the Sonar Road, Gurugram. So already as mentioned by Dr. Pratap regarding the private group, we are already because of survival, we have to always be market ready, future ready, linked to the industry because you cannot survive in the private. We have to survive by the quality only because there is no funding from the government. So we were already on the path, the way it was given in the new education policy, what they are saying, already we were actually experimenting in the university system. It may be good support to the government sector because the big challenge is that if you see in the last 2 years, the most suffering were happening in the primary school, in the government school, in the rural areas. Because last 2 years, there was no learning happened. Because those 30% who are running the classes in online mode, they are mostly from the private groups or maybe very good government university in the maybe in the cities. In the private, there's no learning happened last 2 years. So the major loser are the poor people, primary school and the school or universities in the rural areas. So the point is that you mentioned a very good question that we are getting all the variety in the university. And because after leaving the NUJS Calcutta in 2000, I shifted to private group, because if you see whether it's IIT or IIM or any NLU, you are getting very good quality student. So for the faculty, very easy to drive. But going to the private, you will get all variety of those students. For the faculty teaching in the private university or college, big challenge to maintain the motivation of everybody. Because if you maintain very high level of teaching standards, those who are poor will feel, my God, bouncer is going, I'm not getting anything. Or if you are going to reduce the teaching level, then all these ones who are good quality, they will be feeling, my God, no value addition happening. I am losing my time in the classroom. So the big challenge is that how to maintain value addition for everybody. In this way, I must appreciate new education policy because they are focusing on slow learner and fast learner, and also they are giving some strategy. Because those who are fast learners, they will get chance to take lot of additional credits, value-added courses, they can grow faster. And for slow learners, always there is chance to leave the course, join some other course because there are multiple entry exit options are given. But what I feel that autonomy can be a tool for excellence and also a recipe for disaster. Because see, in the country what is happening right now, our GR is just 24%. Because the gross enrollment rate is 24%. It means that 66% people are not learning anything. They are mostly first generation education families. Now how to, because new education policy said that we are going to, in 15 years, raising from 24% to 40% or 50%. But if you see even we are talking about first generation because we are talking about entry in the education sector, 24%. If you go and see at the class 12, it is going to just 17%. If you go to class into UG and PG, it is going to be hardly 10%. If you see PhD, it is less than 1%. It means that less than 1% is going for PhD research, and research is the future. If you see right now why India can become the market leader, because at least India is doing very well in AI. My area is cyber and IPR. I'm very happy to share that India is in top 10 in the world in the AI innovations. At least we are going to be getting a lot of patents in future, and we can drive the world. But if you see the future, if you see the earlier ratio, because if the patent can be the one of the tool to see whether we are growing, not growing. If you see patent per million for Japan is 900. 900 patents per million. America is 289. India is just 34.5%. It means that if you compare efficiency wise, one Japanese equivalent to 30 Indians, one American is equivalent to 10 Indians. It means that we can raise the efficiency of everybody. And then if you can do very well, because AI is the future and machine learning is the future, but at least India is doing very well in AI, and AI can make a lot of changes in the future world. This way, I think we can maintain the market leadership in the academic sector.
Yeah, and also, sir, coming back to multidisciplinary where we started, is also though our mindset at the current time might not be ready for multidisciplinary learning or collaborative study, but like you rightly said, AI. So if you want to combine, like we have a very prestigious law college, we want to combine legal studies with data analytics, like you said, IPR. And that is the need of the hour, you know. And if you want to combine not only BTech students to study AI and ML and the new technology, but so do medical sciences, so do health sciences, which need to collaborate for artificial intelligence.
Oh, so
Yes,
it means
sir.
that actually you already mentioned that regarding the integration of knowledge, and sir mentioned regarding the transdisciplinary. So now we have started from the multi to transdisciplinary, and invention of the machine plus human being is there. So I am really very happy to see, because I am talking about online education from 1995. If I share my experience in earlier days, we used to sit by the professors saying that if you use PPT in the classroom, you are the bad teacher, because you don't know anything, you're just trying to take the help of PPT or reading in the classroom. It's not the idea. Idea is
Mindset
that
has evolved.
yeah.
So,
So
Professor
at least in
Afshar,
the, just 1 minute, let me finish. So idea is that at least this particular pandemic has shown that there is a lot of power in the online education, a lot of power in the software, remote access software, online education. But the issue is that it should not depend on that. We, a faculty should try to take support by the AI, machine learning, and online medium, mobile phone, internet, and make the more value addition in the classroom become more efficient than to depend on these kind of the technology. There are 3 technologies I want to share. There is a squirrel by the Chinese group. What they are saying, let the squirrel come and take over the entire shifting of the faculty from the classroom. That is not going to happen. This A107 software, it says that let us support to the faculty who have more efficiency in the classroom. He can engage more. Even in China, what they have gone, they are going to put on the children's one of the kind of, just like the device on the head. 3 nodes are there. And what it will do, it will try to connect with the neural system of the student, and it will track on the laptop. Faculty can see how many are attentive in the classroom, how many are attentive. So they can have the more faculty can have
So
more
we can have this
engage-
here and try
Yeah.
this.
So-
How many out of 600 are
So my
attended
point-
by the 3 notes?
My point is that technology can provide support to the faculty. Faculty can raise the class engagement and have more value addition. This way will be better for us than to go on shifting faculty from the classroom, because the empathy is required, more kind of counseling is required that human being can do better than a machine.
Absolutely.
Thank
So
you.
we'll come back to you for more. Yes, sir.
You asked the question of interdisciplinary education. So UGC has already implemented the CBCS system, credit pay transfer CBCS. Say that the students who are doing BTech, they can take one paper from the different school. And in NAC, I've been the chairman of many committees of NAC, so we gave more marks for them, those who are effective implementation of CBCS. Because CBCS says that a student of engineering can take one paper from law, one paper from pharmacy. For example, I am giving to my university, we have implemented the CBCS. It is just a started of a interdisciplinary studies. But in USA, if you go and you are from biology background, you want to become engineer, you can do it. So that India want that a person who study arts and sometimes he feels that I may be a good engineer, they can go and the stream will be changed.
Well, I forgot what I had to say. But anyways, I'll stand up. About this multidisciplinarity, I wanted to say something. I do not know why so much of talk is taking place without taking some examples. Since 1960, once the IIT Kanpur started, Professor P.K. Kelkar was the first director. He brought in saying that engineering means nothing unless it is supported by the science and the humanities. And as a result, the curriculum was made in a manner so that, there is a 17% science, there is all kind of percentage, etc. have been done. And I do not want you to explore too much of truth. I did my MTech from IIT Kanpur, mechanical engineering. 6 faculty members did not have the mechanical engineering background. They had mathematics, I guess, or something like that. So that speaks about the multidisciplinarity. My son studied at IIT Kanpur. I know for very sure. that there are some courses in philosophy, in economics, which are compulsory to everybody. And the result of this multidisciplinarity is also to be seen. If you have recently seen Rajnath Singh and going to General Rawat's coffin, there was a person behind him, bald-headed. Of course, Rajnath Singh is bald-headed as well. He is Abhay Kumar. He did his BTech from IIT Kanpur. He is Secretary of the Defense of Government of India, IIT Kanpur. That is the consequence of multidisciplinarity, because you are good for everything. That's what they say. That's one thing. The second thing is that though the name of the institute is Indian Institute of Technology, but the best linguistic, anybody can challenge, best linguistic in the world, in the country, Professor Patnaik was at IIT Kanpur. Now the lady, what is her name? Rana, I forgot her first name. She is at IIT Kanpur still. She is the second best. Philosophy, I say that Mrs. Moni Malik is the best of the philosophers still in the country. She was at IIT Kanpur. So, though the name says technology, but the physics, chemistry and maths department of IIT Kanpur are still rated to be the best in the country. Though that doesn't go very well with the traditional meaning of IIT Kanpur. That's what, sir, I wanted to add to this particular thing. This multidisciplinarity is not for the sake of saying, why should we have the multidisciplinary? Why should become a bandar unnecessarily? Unless there is a link with the final output. The multidisciplinarity which the National Education Policy has talked about is with a purpose. And let us understand that purpose first. Then we talk about what should be the curriculum, this curriculum, that curriculum. It is to make the best use of the talent. And remember one thing, that today you are being trained at the age of 21, 22. You will not be allowed, remember this, you will not be allowed to come back to the labs to get trained after 10 years, 15 years. One degree given to you is the final degree. Remember this. Your lifespan is 35 years, 40 years. You should be trained in a manner so that you can very happily, smilingly, should be able to carry on for 50 years, 60 years, more than the lifespan. That is the reason of bringing in this disciplinarity. That is the reason, ma'am, now I think I am slightly going to be snobbish, saying that I got my PhD from Cornell University. And at that time, people used to ask, how many courses have you taken? So I was very proud. I said 24. Oh, that's good. Somebody 22, 23. So the vajan or the quality of the PhD student or the thesis was being measured about the number of the courses. Though the introduction was not given here, I was also the head of the Department of Economics and Public Policy, which I never studied in my life. It is all because of 24 courses. So remember, I am standing in front of you. You can ask any question that you wish. So first thing, just in case, I am talking to the students. You have not studied this national education policy. Please study. Otherwise, there is no point in listening to me as a joker or another joker or another joker. There will be many who will be appearing in front of you. You should study. That is my...
No, sir, you've totally summed up the objective of why multidisciplinary education and why one degree can be able to cover all the perspectives of education. Otherwise, people like us who first study science and then study management and then law, one degree after the other, will not make any sense a couple of years later.
मैम बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने. I was also in the Department of Industrial and Management Engineering. People called it as management. So
Yeah.
I am regarded as a management person. I have no degree in management.
Thank you, sir.
I have absolutely no degree. I am telling you the truth.
Sir, I'll take a
Some
quick question.
people said about the IIM and so on and so forth. This economics department at IIT Kanpur started with the purpose of saying that best students are going to IS training or IIM, how to divert them. With that in mind, the Department of Economics and Public Policy started, and of course, I was found the nearest person to the director, so I was made the head of the department of that particular thing.
Sir, I'll take a quick question from Professor
Yeah,
Chandra.
please.
Sir comes from Guru Gobind Singh IP University and taking care of exams there, comes from the Vice Chancellor's office, and something that could be of interest to our students as well, the exam reforms as given in the NEP, and also going by the school education reforms that we've already seen, CBSE taking exams twice a year, and similar reforms coming up in higher education as well. Sir, do you think that is going to help solve the stress level of the students who have to face so many exams throughout the year, which is unlike, like I think everybody would agree, unlike the international or global education, where I believe that they study for more than 16 to 18 hours a day, but not so much so for only passing or clearing the exams. Your thoughts on that?
Okay. Somebody will have to turn the sound. Song. Am I audible? Yeah. Good enough. Look, sitting here you can't know. So I'm very happy to be here. Remember, ex-Vice Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, Vice Chancellor. I am the only non-Vice Chancellor.
Next Vice Chancellor.
That is, would be has no meaning. That is in future. Only the past is definite. Right? So I'm thankful to my Vice Chancellor that he has deputed me. So I am also one of the few persons uninvited here. I was told to go, I came. Not that I mind, but I like.
So your thoughts?
I will keep it brief. Look, I am no longer the controller of examination of my university. My colleague sitting there is the current controller of examination. But you have asked me a straight question, I will give you a straight reply. All of us have gone through some education system. The same education system which is now being told is bad. Change is always good. Change should be done. But saying ye kharab hai is equivalent to saying all of us are bad. If we could go through the same stress, saying that our children cannot bear it is demeaning to both us as well as our children. So let's not talk about stress and all. Let's talk about examination. What can be changed? One view can be that nothing should be changed. That's good enough. The other is, look, the only change that should be done. Right now we have blind evaluation. You understand that? You don't know what the child was going through while giving the exam. घर से चलते हुए रास्ते में किसी ने बोल दिया कुछ, एग्जाम खराब हो गया. So it is one-off exam. That is the only problem with this interim system. There is none other. Now you have to mitigate that. Then it has to be that teachers' continuous evaluation. This is a buzzword that you will find everywhere. Believe me, if it is properly implemented, it is more difficult for the student. Not only the course outcome, and that is something that we are. I will not go into quantification of exam education. Cannot be done. We are forced to do it. We will not go into that details. Education is a service which we do cannot even quantify. ये कहना कि इनके कितने पेपर हैं, मैंने भी अपने बायोडाटा में लिखा हुआ 120 पेपर हो गए हैं. अरे वो 120 पेपर पढ़े कितने हैं मुझे तो पता नहीं. Rarely citations, sir. Let's not get it. I'm trying to keep myself divided here. Let's not get into the quantification picture at all. Some of you are teachers, some of you are students. Both are being quantifiably assessed. Teachers' continuous evaluation is the only mode. In the sense, the teacher should be allowed. X student gets this marks. Good. Very difficult if the teacher is good. The problem is if the teacher is now assessed कि आपके इतने बच्चे इतने नंबर लाए तो आपकी सैलरी ये होगी. I'm from Bihar. Right. Which is lauded left, right, and center as a great education is बहुत कर दिया. Do you know that in schools the funding is being done कि आपका पास रेट ये है तो इतने पैसे मिलेंगे. कौन सा टीचर ऐसे सिस्टम में? Look, philosophy happens when you are settled. If you look at the history, all philosophers came when civilizations came. Otherwise, survival is the important thing. So, आपसे सब कराएंगे हम. CO भी बनवाएंगे, PO भी बनवाएंगे, उसका असेसमेंट चार्ट भी बनाएंगे. बच्चों के नंबर भी खुवाएंगे. बच्चे को आएगा. तो हम तो examination में देखिए, there are no reforms. What reforms are we talking about? We have to change the system, and let's not call changing the system a reform. It cannot be controlled. It has to be ingrained, and that can only happen if the teachers are told, आप पढ़ाइए. फेल करते हैं कोई दिक्कत नहीं. बच्चा फेल कर जाएगा दिक्कत नहीं है. लेकिन होता क्या है? I'm a product of Delhi University. Everybody blames Delhi University. Right? The teachers class नहीं लेते, ये नहीं लेते. I have seen this. My teachers went on strike. Teachers did not take attendance in the class. There were some teachers. कुछ तो ऐसे थे जो साल भर स्ट्राइक पे थे. Right? So these are individuals. How do you control them? And they are generally, those who don't take class are the best loved teachers during that tenure. नंबर भी खूब देते हैं. आप टीचर्स कंटिन्यूअस इवैल्यूएशन कर दीजिए. मेरी यूनिवर्सिटी में 25 नंबर 40 नंबर था. And now this august body will not like what I'm saying. I forced my vice chancellor when I was the controller, reduce it to 25. Well, this country is not ready for this. This is good. Look, JNU, total evaluation. It's rated one of the best universities in the world. आप उसकी लेफ्ट राइट जो भी बात करना चाहें कर लें, बट उसकी इस पे तो बात नहीं कर सकते. यूनिवर्सिटी अच्छी है. इट्स टोटल टीचर्स कंटिन्यूअस इवैल्यूएशन. टीचर नंबर दे देता है. वहां भी कुछ टीचर हैं जो बिना मतलब कर रहे थे. मेजॉरिटी डर. सो 80-20 रूल अप्लाइज एवरीवेयर. 80% भी ठीक हो, दिक्कत तब होती है 20%. So examination should not be reformed. In fact, we should go back the way the status is. Actually, NAC करा लीजिए, NIRF करा लीजिए. नंबर बनाने के लिए एजेंसीज घूम रही हैं कि आपका हम डेटा क्लिक कर देंगे. इस देश में आपने कोई रूल बनाया, उसका संवर्धन हुआ है. I will give you an example. 3 or 4 months away, some minister made a statement कि इंडिया में रिसर्च ज़्यादा नहीं होती, वॉल्यूम बढ़ गया है, अच्छा क्वालिटी रिसर्च नहीं हो रहा. बिलीव मी, अच्छा पहले भी होता था, अच्छा आज भी हो रहा है. जितना पहले होता था उतना आज भी हो रहा है. लेकिन जब ये कह दिया गया टीचरों को कैश में इतने नंबर रिसर्च के मिलेंगे, इंडेक्स पेपर होने चाहिए. डू यू नो दैट इवन इंडेक्सिंग इज सोल्ड नाउ. मोस्ट ऑफ दीज Elsevier Science, writers, all these are owned by mutual funds, no longer by the old, जो जमींदारी प्रथा यूरोपियन थी ना, the landlords of Europe had started these agencies. Now this is American mutual fund. Mutual fund को profit चाहिए. आपकी रिसर्च से कोई मतलब नहीं है. I know my students who are running journals charging 1 lakh rupees for publication and they are indexed in SCA. Make a room and it is subverted. आपने बोला पेपर चाहिए, लीजिए. आपने बोला PhD में एक पब्लिकेशन चाहिए, मेरे डिपार्टमेंट ने कर दिया 2 चाहिए, लीजिए. 2 आप मांगते हैं तो 4 देंगे. बच्चे को एग्जाम में पढ़ाने की आप ट्विस्ट करके क्वेश्चन दे दीजिए, बगावत कर देंगे. दिक्कत क्या है? टीचर्स ऑल्सो टेक इजी. तो एग्जामिनेशन शुड नॉट बी रिफॉर्म्ड. इन फैक्ट इन दिस कंट्री इट शुड गो बैक. The only change should be 4 बार एग्जाम ले लो, चारों कुछ हो। क्योंकि एक एग्जाम खराब हो सकता है, बट इंटरनल असेसमेंट नहीं होना चाहिए। I will give you one experience. For 1 year, I decided to leave this university and went to Delhi University. Taught at place. It's in South Campus, Institute of Informatics, and there is Electronic Sciences Department. So I was taking class 1 in this, and I was teaching antenna design in electronics. And we had got a classroom. साउथ कैंपस में एक बैम्बू हट हुआ करता था जो कि उनकी कैंटीन थी. दैट केम टू अस एज अ डिपार्टमेंट. वॉल टू वॉल हमने उस पर लगा दिया बोर्ड. बढ़िया बोर्ड होता है, किसी भी टीचर से बोल लीजिए उसको वॉल टू वॉल बोर्ड दे देगा, बहुत अच्छा. Enjoy. I am not saying people who teach from PPT or on board, it is your choice. Good, bad, ugly is the teacher's choice. I posed a set of boundary conditions, wrote down the Maxwell's equation, and did everything incorrectly. क्योंकि मेरा फीलिंग क्या हो रहा था कि जब मैं स्टूडेंट था तो टीचर के तो नाक में दम होता था, अगर उसको नहीं आता तो क्लास से टीचर भाग जाता था, क्योंकि बच्चे को पता था कि इसके हाथ में तो कुछ है नहीं, अंत में एग्जाम होगा, पता नहीं कौन चेक करेगा. तो द टीचर हैड टू सर्वाइव इन द क्लास. राइट नाउ 25% तो मेरे पास है, गर्दन पकड़ेगा बच्चे को, हिला तो गया. Electronic Sciences is one of the preferred department in the South. MSc Electronics is done. मैं उसके बाद पूरा गलत करने के बाद मैं बोला बच्चों को समझ में आ गया. बच्चे पोलाइट होते हैं भाई, 25% मास्टर के पास. यस सर. मतलब बेवकूफ हूँ, जब मैक्सवेल्स इक्वेशन ही गलत है तो डेरिवेशन कहाँ से सही होगा. और उसके बाद आई स्पोक इन अ मैनर व्हिच वाज स्लाइटली अनफॉर्मल because I lost my temper. मैं इसके लिए भी तैयार था कि बच्चे बदमाश हो सकते हैं, लास्ट में बोलेंगे कि सर ये तो सब बकवास है, आपका तो पहला लाइन ही इनकरेक्ट है. आई रोट द साइन रॉन्ग. ठीक है. जब इतना बोलने के बाद सडनली एक बच्चे से शायद रहा नहीं. अगर आपने कभी नोटिस किया होगा, दिस इज माय जनरल ऑब्जर्वेशन, जितना दुबला पतला होता है ना उतना ही बदमाश होता है बच्चा. जो हेल्दी होता है वो शांत होता है, दुबला पतला लड़का खड़ा होता है वो बोलता है. सर मैंने एक बार एक टीचर से क्लास लिया था, मेरे से एक पेपर में 75% नहीं है बीएससी में. बोला शांत हो गया. बोला सर माय इंटरनल में उस टीचर ने मुझे 2 नंबर दिए थे 25 में से, और दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी का रूल है माइनर के मार्क्स आ गए, वंस डिस्प्लेड कैन नॉट बी चेंज्ड. बोला सर हम क्यों पूछेंगे आपसे क्लास में. बोला सर मैं टीचर के सामने घूमता रह गया, सर इसमें गलती तो बता दो. बोला नहीं नंबर मुझे देना था, मैंने दे दिया, तुझे. दैट इज द रिफॉर्म. टीचर शुड नॉट बी अलाउड दिस प्रिविलेज and the power. No teacher is allowed to do that. And this is not an aberration, please understand. My own experience is 40% on an average teachers do this.
So, thank you very much, sir, for this. For this, इसके 2 views हो सकते हैं, sir. One is that it is a rebellious view to what we are planning to do or which the government is planning to do. At the same time, हिंदी में जिसे बोलते हैं आईना दिखाया. So other thing could also be कि ये सच्चाई है जो हम देख रहे हैं इस टाइम आईने में. And a third perspective could be like you spoke about internal exams. So going by private colleges which are not government funded and all, there has to be certain respect that the teacher has to earn from the students, and they do so by their own deeds and actions in the class, by the way they treat their students, by their sensitivity, by their empathy, their love and care to the student. So somewhere we might agree or disagree that it is not about internal marks in the hands of the teacher, but rather internal evaluation which has happened throughout the year. Because since most of the teachers in private institutes, sir, attend the class and rather take lectures of 100% syllabus plus couple of revision classes as well, unlike Delhi University where teacher does not enter the class throughout the year.
I will have to interrupt. This is my opinion.
Absolutely, like I said.
But you are trying to justify something. There was no debate, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
Let me give a call back on that.
Yeah.
I have never said private or public. I only said teachers.
Yeah, like I said, आईना दिखाया आपने.
And
So,
we are not
Misunderstood.
ready as a society. The government policy says total is moving towards total evaluation by the teacher. That's no blind examination, nothing. But are we ready?
absolutely.
Let's not get into that argument. Private भी ये होता है तो. I gave you the example of Delhi University. There are teachers during my time, and I. पता नहीं सुन लेंगे तो बुरा ना माने.
We've all faced that, sir.
नहीं, मैं उनका नाम लूँगा जिन्होंने क्लास ली.
Sir,
He is retired now. Professor Inder Mohan Kapai. Give me 1 minute. Professor Inder Mohan Kapai was my physics teacher. He was one wing of teachers' politics in Delhi University. Effectively, the in charge of that. उनसे मैंने चुस्की ली थी बच्चे चुस्की लेते थे हमारे टाइम में. Duta is on strike. You are from the same public, right? You don't know. No, BSc. So if you have gone to Kirodimal College, somebody, you would have seen that science block downstairs, upstairs, chemistry is downstairs. So we were downstairs, sitting. And मैंने पूछा सर क्या आज तो स्ट्राइक है. And he says attendance is not the strike. I have to discuss. So that was my statement. The other statements, there were some teachers who they were on strike throughout the year. That can happen anywhere. Please understand this. A teacher can be sent to the class. God knows what the teacher does in that class.
can I see? I will not go into this examination system. To me, whatever decision can be, but I would like to tell something about this multidisciplinary. See, in 2009, I have this report also. It was prepared with the help of 100 teachers, extensive debates for almost 3 months, and then it came out. And I was also questioned, sir, how are you? एक कॉमर्स वाले को बोलते हो कि साइंस पढ़े और साइंस वाले को बोलते हो कि डांस का क्लासेस सीखे, ये क्या है सब? I was also questioned. The new education policy, if you really read it, it is very well written certain points. We are trying to exaggerate certain things. Let me just in brief in 2 lines. What this interdisciplinary means is not that first year you do in science and then second year in arts and third year in this. No. You have decided you want to go in science or let us say philosophy or whatever. There will be something like this as you have already taken that you are going to arts and philosophy. So philosophy will be the core subject. And accordingly, we divided that percentage, that what will be the percentage. But along with that percentage, there will be core electives, electives, and open electives, and the foundation courses. Foundation course means communication and the computers and all that. Core electives means, yes, subject related. If it is a pharmacy, pharmacology means diseases, so pathophysiology can come and this, so that will be the core elective. That can be a choice. Open electives, yes, you can have anything on the earth, and you may make like we can have the fonts per page because of that artist. So all these things are understood. So the open electives are that you can touch anything, anywhere. So that percentage has to be, if you really want to implement this multidisciplinary part, one has to make a plan. It cannot be just debates only. That's what is my thing. And I have this thing for the art, science and commerce. I can very well say to any university, yes, take this as an example and you will be successful.
I think you've studied this completely thoroughly and we'll all make notes from the book, sir. We would like to conclude in probably the next 2-3 minutes because we haven't touched jobs and employment. I think Dr. Abhay touched that ultimately we have to find jobs for the students, and going by a song of probably our or your generation about BA किया है, MA किया है, वो भी जाने MA किया है, बाकी सब तो ठीक ठाक है, बस नौकरी नहीं है. तो पढ़ाई तो पूरी कर ली लेकिन जॉब नहीं मिली उस पढ़ाई से. At the same time, there was also a song which said, सिकंदर ने पोरस से की थी लड़ाई. तो पढ़ा तो दिया हमने, लड़ाई हुई, सब हुआ, लेकिन उससे मुझे नौकरी नहीं मिली. So that has been a bitter truth of, I will not criticize the education system because we are all products of those, like rightly said by sir, it will be like defaming our own selves. कि हमने जो इतने साल इतनी पढ़ाइयाँ करी हैं, इतने great scholars पैदा किए हैं और बड़े किए हैं, but somewhere to compete with the global levels, standards, and to become international, how do you think, sir, in one line, which, recommendation I would want, about, just to conclude, what one thing can we include in our, policy to implement, rather not only in the policy, but rather what can be implemented to improve the job position of the students, because that is what they want to hear, the placement. So one-liner, sir.
If you see the Middle East and all, where Indian diaspora is working, so for that, job prospect is there, those who are professional course. So there is a strong combination of formal and non-formal education. A very strong academic industry partnership. So if you do, because NASSCOM has already projected that we have too many engineers, but 40% are not even fit for job. So if you go for formal and non-formal education mix, for example, take the BTech program and also add some courses from industry, what is in demand, because Pascal, when I was student, we studied Pascal, but now the artificial intelligence, the Pascal course is very famous in US for robotic technology. So now Pascal is coming back. So no C++ are there. So the formal and non-formal combination is very much for the student, so that they will go and compete the industry. So because now the software company don't want. I'm talking about software company. They don't want to give money for training purpose nowadays. So they said, okay, student is expert, we can take it. So there is a good combination for when you go for formal education, you add some non-formal things also, which is already recommended in our new education policy.
So Professor Abhay, one quick thought.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. A very apt question to be posed. In fact, I believe in something different. I believe that let's change our mindsets and the mindsets of our students, not to think only of the first job, but to think of a career path. I'll give a small example just in one line. One of my students in the past university where I was Vice Chancellor, he had done his BTech, he had topped the batch. I persuaded him to go and join a startup in Bangalore, where he would be getting much less than what his peers were getting. I'll give you the name of the organization. Zoom Cars had entered the arena then. He joined it at a very low salary. Now he has an equity in it. A man of crores. So think of the career. Don't think of the first job. Thank you.
Professor Tabrez, one quick.
I think we are moving in the era of individualized kind of learning, training, and the placement, and also assessment process. I'm talking about the holistic kind of assessment, but I'm talking about the individualized kind of assessment. And this way, I think AI can be great support, because AI can also get your data, and by machine learning, you can customize something for is suited for you. And you can pick up those courses which are relevant to your interest. Accordingly, you can build up additional courses to build up the employability skill. And also by seeing his aspirations and also the interest, you can design a curriculum or you can design a career for him. In this process, we can also control the internship process, and finally, he can be a employable product after passing the course. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Professor Chandra, over to you.
I have taken too much of time.
One quick concluding thought we'll want. Yeah.
All students are employable provided there is a job for them. The question is, मैं ये मानने को तैयार नहीं हूँ कि हमारे बच्चे अनएम्प्लॉयबल हैं, जो उनको आता है उसके लिए जॉब. So that means the only thing that they have to learn is how to learn something that gets them the job that is available, because jobs are available. That is why they are saying, भाई हम job देना चाहते हैं, right? So that means that student has to be trained in such a way that they are capable of learning out of the box also. जो हमने पढ़ा है वो तो ठीक है, अपने आप ही उसका सीधा मतलब है हाइपर स्पेशलाइजेशन, 2G में तो बंद ही कर. And that is my take on what AICT is doing. AI and machine learning. Look, AI and machine learning, all techniques. My field of research happens to be neural networks and AI. And I'm making a reasonable statement in my opinion when I say after 1999, not a single technique was developed in the field of AI. Deep belief networks, deep learning से तो बात करिए, सब 99 तक कुछ नहीं है. Which means just because things have changed, because the computer power changes. Pentium class machine के बाद 2010 के आसपास सबके पास computing power, and that is why remember AI is one part, machine learning is another part. Machine learning is statistics. Do we teach our students statistics properly? Otherwise they will become, as somebody had said in the last session, software हम तो नहीं बनाते, हमारे लोग सॉफ्टवेयर पे काम करते हैं. लाइब्रेरी यूजर बना रहे हैं, लाइब्रेरी क्रिएटर नहीं. That is all I have to say.
Well, sir, one quick thought on how do we find jobs?
जिस दिन स्टूडेंट्स विद्यार्थी बन जाएं, परीक्षार्थी ना बने, उसी दिन आपको जॉब मिल जाएगी.
Thank you very much.
परीक्षार्थी बन जाते हैं, हमको सिर्फ परीक्षा दिखती है, पढ़ाई नहीं दिखती है. That is the only thing.
Absolutely. And we are close to the end. I'll just take that one-liner from Professor Kripa Shanker. So we end at a lively note. So,
One-liner. Well, I will, looking at the past and the future, projecting for the future, I think we have to prove those who talk about the unemployability or the jobs. And that proved them wrong, of course. And that is possible only when you open up. How many of us read the newspapers? Is the question. Sometimes it is the question. I will again give you some examples. The best company in the world today, the cloud computing, is run by someone, Pandey. He was a computer science student at IIT Kanpur. If you read the newspaper, there is a Patrakar, Neelkanth Mishra. He writes, I think twice a week kind of thing, in the middle page. He was a computer science student at IIT Kanpur. Padma Shri Agarwal, who died because of the cancer and who established in Delhi, and today the girl, I forgot the name, who brings all kind of Coca-Cola mein itna galat hai, ye galat hai, wo galat hai, speaks a little bit rough though, but it's all Patrakar. From where do you become Patrakar? Sunita Narayan, yes, right, sir. From where do you become Patrakar? You cannot leave it to only IIT Kanpur. Sir, when you said Vice Chancellor, I think you pointed to me also. I have been Vice Chancellor as well. Once you become Vice Chancellor, you are always Vice Chancellor. That's very good. Sir, here, since you asked about the one-liner, it's a bit bitter. How do I, in my time, 2009 to 2012, it was engineering mechanics, which was the kind of, the course or the paper, which was very bothersome for the students. The place where you are sitting now used to be an engineering college. Skyline was the name of the college. This is the second time that I'm here. And again, bitter and blunt. Teachers mostly are the backbenchers. They do not know the engineering mechanics. They do not know the rank of a matrix. They do not, therefore, how would they teach the Gauss-Jordan elimination? Tell me, if anybody can do without knowing the rank, and if you can tell me, teach me Gauss-Jordan elimination, I would just bow my head.
Sir,
It's not
we are
possible.
blessed with wonderful teachers now. You must interact with them.
No, I will complete it. Let me complete it. From where to get the teachers is the question.
How much ever we are enjoying this conversation, we'll take this backstage. Professor Afshar has to leave.
No.
So
Okay,
I like
from where, just what? From where to get the teachers? Teachers cannot be created. Teachers cannot be borrowed from, let's say, IIT Kanpur or let's say something like that. Teachers have to, I want to make you a teacher.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, sir.
And for that,
And we'd like to conclude here. Thank you very much, very senior professionals from academics. Thank you very much, Professor Kripa Shanker, for all your thoughts. We'd like to conclude. Shilpa, you can take it up. Thank you. Thank you for being wonderful audience.